The cold winds of Drenic 4 cut through the metal graveyard like sharp knives. The sky was gray, the air was dry. Rusted ships and broken machines lay scattered across the ice fields. Like forgotten bones of war, she crawled through the dirt, slowly shivering. Barefoot, her body bruised. She had no name anymore. Her people had taken it from her when they cast her out. They had stripped her of everything, her place, her dignity, even her clothes. Only a dirty piece of cloth clung to her waist, torn and useless against the freezing air. Her skin was a pale violet, cracked at the shoulders, covered in scratches. Her long hair stuck to her face with dried sweat and tears. Every breath burned her lungs. Every step cut into her knees, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. The junk valley was silent. Only sound was the crunch of her own knees dragging across the frozen ground. She looked up at the sky. The stars were starting to shine above the storm clouds. She didn't know their names. She didn't care. She just whispered weakly, like a child lost in the dark. Please, someone, ... anyone, ... Her voice disappeared into the wind. She had no reason to believe anyone would hear, but something in her heart, something small and broken, still hoped. Then, she heard it, footsteps. Heavy, slow, careful. She froze. Her heart raced. Was it one of them? Had her clan sent hunters to drag her back, to punish her more? Well, she tried to crawl faster, but her arms failed her. The steps came closer. Her body gave up. She collapsed beside a rusted engine core, trembling, and then a shadow fell over her. She turned her face upward, eyes half closed from pain and frostbite. It wasn't one of them. It was a human. He stood tall, wearing a dark coat patched in places, boots caked with dust. A thick scarf was wrapped around his neck. His eyes were strange brown, warm, alive. And most of all, ... calm, not cold like the others. He looked at her like she mattered. She didn't know how to react. She tried to crawl back, but he raised one hand. Easy, he said, his voice deep but gentle. I'm not here to hurt you. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Her mouth was dry. Her lips cracked when she tried to form words. He crouched beside her. Without asking, he pulled off his heavy coat and placed it over her shoulders. It was warm, so warm. The sudden heat made her gasp. Your skin's ice cold, he said. Long have you been out here? She blinked at him, her eyes welled with tears. She didn't want to cry about the warmth.
The kindness?
It was too much. He pulled a canteen from his pack and held it to her lips. She drank slowly, shaking. Better. He said, let's get you out of here. Then suddenly, he turned his head. His eyes narrowed. He stood, slowly, listening. The wind shifted. He looked back down at her and asked, softly but firmly, they're following you, aren't they? Her breath caught in her throat. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. He looked out across the junk field, scanning the horizon. I don't have weapons, he muttered. Not the kind to start a war. But I've got speed and I've got fire. He glanced down at her again. You're coming with me. I'm not leaving you here. She tried to sit up, but her legs failed again. The coat slid slightly, revealing the bruises across her ribs. His face changed. It hardened not with anger at her, but at whoever had done this to her. He gently picked her up. She was weightless in his arms. Don't worry, he whispered. I don't know what they did to you, but it ends now. He turned toward a slope of broken engines and climbed carefully. Boots crunching the snow, she rested her head against his chest, eyes closing. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt safe, and behind them, far in the distance, 3 dark shapes moved across the ice quiet, fast and watching. The hum of the ship's engines was soft, like a whisper in the dark. She stirred, her body wrapped in warmth that wasn't there before. Her skin no longer burned from the cold, and the silence around her wasn't cruel. It was peaceful. She opened her eyes slowly. She was lying on a narrow, padded bench inside a small, dimly lit ship. The walls were steel gray, with wires coiled like vines and blinking lights that pulsed with life. A thick thermal blanket covered her body. The human's coat had been folded and placed nearby, drying by a heater unit. She sat up carefully, wincing. At the bruises on her sides, her feet touched the floor warm, not frozen. For a moment, she just sat there, eyes wide, breathing softly. It didn't feel real. There were smells she didn't recognize, burned metal, old coffee, machine oil, but none of them were threatening. She could hear the low hum of an engine, and faint beeping from the front of the ship. Someone was speaking, quietly, calmly, the human. I don't care if she's not on the registry. I found her half-dead Tal. No, I'm not handing her over. Not now. There was a pause. Then his voice again, firmer now. You want my cargo? Come back later. I'm busy keeping someone alive. The voice ended. A console beeped. Came closer. She tensed, pulling the blanket tighter around her, but didn't hide. He stepped into the room and stopped when he saw her sitting up. Well, said with a tired smile, you're tougher than you look. She stared at him, silent. He walked over slowly and placed a steaming cup on the metal table beside her. Hot broth. It's not much, but it'll help. She didn't reach for it. He stepped back, giving her space, and leaned against the wall. Name's Jace, he said after a pause. I run salvage between the outer rings and human space. Mostly junk, sometimes fuel, never people. She blinked slowly, her throat still raw. Why? Her voice cracked. He looked at her. Why what? She struggled for the words. Why? Save me. He tilted his head, then he shrugged. Because someone should have. She looked down at the cup. The steam made her eyes water. She reached for it slowly, sipped. It was salty, strange, and warm, so warm. I don't have much here, he said, walking to a storage locker. But I've got spare clothes, if you want something that actually fits. She looked at her body, still mostly hidden under the blanket, then nodded. I set the clothes down gently on the bench beside her. They're clean, he added. On. Yours, if you want them. He turned and walked away, giving her privacy. She changed slowly, awkwardly, her fingers still stiff. The clothes were simple gray pants, a soft undershirt, a thick jacket, but they were hers now. Her first real clothing in weeks. When she stepped into the main cabin, Gaius was sitting in the pilot's chair, checking the scanner. She hesitated at the doorway. He turned. You okay?
Ice.
She nodded once. Good, he said, then paused. What's your name? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her name, it felt foreign now, broken. Tali, she said quietly. He nodded. All right, Tali, you're safe now for the moment. That last part made her heart twist. She walked forward and looked at the screen. Someone's coming, he sighed. 3 ships, light class fast. Could be traders, could be slavers, or clan enforcers. I don't like guessing. Her body tensed. They won't stop, she said, barely above a whisper. They think I belong to them. Jace didn't look surprised. His fingers danced across the controls. Then we need to move. Your ship, small, he said, can it fight? He smirked. Not much. But she's fast, and she's mine. That's more than most people have out here. The ship rumbled slightly as he pushed the thrusters. The outside stars shifted. I'm not going back, she said suddenly, voice trembling. They'll do worse if they catch me again. Jace's expression changed. His hand tightened around the lever. They're not going to catch you. Looked at him. Why are you helping me? He didn't answer right away. He stared ahead into the void. Because once, someone helped me, when I didn't deserve it. This feels like it matters. The scanner beeped again. Why is this? Time, he cursed under his breath. They're closing in. Fast. She felt panic rise. But Jace turned off the lights and activated a stealth cloak. The ship dimmed, humming low. Outside, the stars vanished behind shadows. Hold tight, he said. We're about to see if this old girl still has tricks. Tali stood behind him, her hands gripping the chair. Her heart raced. They'll scan for heat, she whispered. Jace smiled. They'll scan for a ship that runs like theirs. This one runs like mine. She didn't understand, but when the outside view showed the enemy ships flying past them, not noticing a thing, her breath caught. They were cloaked, hidden, safe. For now, but as they drifted through the silent dark, Jace muttered something. That made her blood run cold. They're not just looking for a runaway. They're hunting something else. Someone gave them your coordinates. Which means this isn't random. She looked at him, eyes wide. He looked back. You were set up. Asterisk, the silence after the escape wasn't peaceful. It was sharp like the breath you hold when hiding from something just outside the door. The cloaking system hummed low, and the cabin lights flickered every few seconds as the ship drifted through a dead corridor of space. The radar was clear for now, but Jace hadn't relaxed, not once. Tali sat near the cargo bay, her fingers wrapped tightly around a cup of water. She'd barely sipped it. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, but her thoughts were tangled in everything. That had happened, and everything she feared was still coming. Her name hadn't been spoken with kindness in a long time, not until Jace. He had moved like someone used to being hunted. He didn't flinch. He didn't complain. He had taken her into his ship, treated her wounds, offered her warmth, and now was risking everything for a girl the galaxy had already thrown away. The scanner beeped again, slow pulsing ping. She rose to her feet as Jace entered, rubbing a streak of oil off his hand with a rag. They're back, he said calmly, like he was discussing weather. Her body tensed. How did they find us again? She asked. Because they never lost. You, he replied, dropping into the pilot's chair. That brand on your neck, it's not just for show, it's a tracker. Tali's hand flew to her throat. The small scar, shaped like a crescent, pulsed faintly under her fingers. They told me it was a warning mark, she whispered. It's worse than that, Jace muttered. It's a leash. She backed away, her voice breaking. Then go. Get rid of me. Cut the leash. Jace looked up sharply. No, Tali blinked. I don't leave people behind, he said. You're not a burden. You're a target, and I don't run from that. But if you don't, they'll kill you, she said. He stood slowly.
Ow.
Then walked over to a control panel near the back wall and yanked open a compartment. Inside was a small collection of strange weapons, some rusted, some obviously handmade, others sleek and alien. He pulled one out. A modified plasma launcher. I've fought worse things than greedy slave lords, he said, loading a cell into the weapon. And they've never seen someone like me fly. The ship rocked slightly, signaling another ping on the radar. Tali moved beside him, uncertain. You can't win, Jace. There's 3 ships out there. He gave her a crooked smile.
Hey!
Brought 3 ships to chase 1 girl. That tells me they're scared. He activated a new command on the ship's dashboard. From the outside, the ship's panels retracted and shifted, revealing a pair of hidden thrusters and a long, narrow cannon made of scrap and alien tech. Tali's eyes widened. What is that? Something I built from junk, he said proudly. Salvaged it years ago. No one knows what it is, so no one knows how to stop it. She stepped closer to the glass, where the black of space stretched endlessly. The enemy ships were moving into formation, like wolves circling prey. You still have time to run, she said quietly. Jace didn't even blink. I'm not going anywhere. The moment he said it, the first ship fired. A blue pulse screamed across the void, and Jace dove into motion. The entire cabin shifted as he twisted the flight stick and slammed the engine into reverse. The human ship dropped below the blast, spun sideways, and fired back. A pulse of green light tore across the space, slamming into the attacker's wing. It didn't destroy them, but it shook them. Tali grabbed a side handle to keep from falling. How did you fly like that? Jace grinned. I grew up dodging debris fields and outlaw zones. These ships are faster, stronger, and newer, but I know how to make gravity cry. The second ship closed in, its engines glowing bright red. Jace didn't wait. He flipped a manual switch, and a side turret made from a piece of an old mining bot locked on and fired. The shot struck the second ship's engine. It sputtered. Then another blast came from behind. The third ship, Jace's smile dropped. Smart, they flanked us. Tali looked at the radar. Her stomach dropped. They're going to box us in. Jace's fingers flew across the controls. Only if I let them. He took the ship into a steep dive, straight into the upper atmosphere of the nearby moon. The hull groaned, but the human didn't stop. Can't follow me in here, he said. Too much magnetic interference. But we can't see either, she said. I don't need to, he replied. The ship rumbled through clouds and static. Nearly blind, alarms beeped. Outside, lightning arced across the sky like angry veins. Tali closed her eyes and then a blast. Then silence. She opened her eyes. Jace exhaled slowly, flipping a switch. Ship 2 and 3 collided in the storm. They didn't see each other coming. A number 1? He pointed. The last ship floated just outside the atmosphere, scanning blindly. Didn't know where they were. Tali stared at him. You're just one human, she said softly. Exactly, he replied. And that's the last thing they expected to matter. Asterisk, the storm had passed. The silence that followed was heavier than the thunder ever was. Jace leaned over the console, breathing slow, shoulders tense. The ship floated just above the moon's surface, hidden behind a rocky ridge where no scanner could find them. Outside, lightning flashed far in the distance, silent now but inside the ship. The air had turned still. Thick with something else, Tel sat in the co-pilot seat, staring straight ahead. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her shoulders no longer trembled from cold, but from something deeper, something she had buried so far, for so long that even thinking about it made her bones feel hollow. Jace reached for a bottle of water, drank, then handed it to her. You okay? He asked softly. She nodded. But it was a lie. He didn't press. Not yet. He walked over to a storage panel and pulled out a sealed container. Inside were ration bars plain, high energy, tasteless things. He tossed one to her, then leaned against the wall, unwrapping his own. You flew well, she said, her voice low. He gave her a half smile. Didn't have a choice. Tali looked down at the bar in her hands. She hadn't eaten anything solid in days. Her stomach ached, but it wasn't hunger that truly gnawed at her. You said something earlier, she whispered. Back in. The control room, you said? I was set up, Jace nodded slowly. Yeah, whoever owns those ships. They didn't just track you by accident. They were waiting nearby, orbiting too close, too ready. Her eyes met his. Then someone gave me to them. I think so, he said. And not just because you escaped. She turned away. He saw the way her fingers clutched the bar without opening it. Saw the way her shoulders curled in on themselves like she was still bracing for impact. Like a blow was always just a second away. You want to tell me what happened to you? He asked gently. There was silence. Then her voice barely above. A whisper. I wasn't born in the clan. I was bought. It made Jace blink. She continued, her voice steadying only because it had gone so flat. My mother died in the lower rings. No family. I was young. Beautiful, they said. Good bones. Good skin tone. A rare tint. So the Garrus's clan took me. Trained me. Trained you for what? He asked, though he already feared the answer. She looked at him, eyes dull, to be sold. Jace. Didn't move. They raise girls in silence. She said no name, no rights. They mark your neck, train you to obey, to serve. They tell you your body is worth more than your voice. Your beauty is your only purpose. And when you reach maturity, her hand shook now. She set the bar down. They dress you in silk, cover you in colors and perfume, then they auction. You'll like cattle. Some girls get bought by traders, others by nobles. Some never leave the pit. Jace clenched his fists. They sold you, he asked, his voice hard now. Tali nodded. To a warlord. But he didn't want me, just wanted a favor from the clan leader. So he tossed me back, half-clothed, into a trader's pod, said I was too quiet. The trader didn't care. He dumped me near the scrap fields, left you there. Jace muttered, to die. She looked at him, her voice still cold. I wasn't useful anymore. The silence after that was unbearable. Jace stood slowly. His eyes burned not from tears, but from fury. He walked to the side panel and pulled out a med kit, not because she needed it, but because he had to do something with his hands. "You're not what they said you were," he said firmly. "You're not useless. You're not property." She gave a bitter smile. "You don't know what I've done to survive." Crouched beside her. "You think I care?" he asked. "You lived. You crawled through freezing dirt. You looked up at a stranger and still found the strength to keep going. That's not weakness. That's power." Her lips trembled. "Why do you keep being kind to me?" she asked, tears finally touching the edge of her voice. "I don't deserve it." Jace didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into a drawer and pulled out a small silver badge. Simple, but old. It had a name etched into it, Sarah. "She was my sister," he said. "Taken when I was 15. Same kind of system, different world. No one listened, no one helped. So I learned how to fight, how to hide, how to build ships from trash and guns from scrap. I never found her," he looked her in the eyes, "but I found you." She couldn't breathe. The weight in her chest cracked open, and the tears came fast now, hot and painful. She didn't sob. She just let them fall, silent and raw. Jay stood and gave her space. The ship was still, but something had shifted. Not in space, not on the radar, but in Tali. For the first time since her mother died, she felt like she wasn't alone anymore, and behind the moon, far in the void, the clan's fleet turned. Heading straight for them, Jack stood shirtless in the ship's belly, welding sparks dancing across his arms as metal screamed under the torch. The engine room was dim, hot, and alive with motion. Cables hung like vines from the ceiling, scattered. Across the floor were tools, wires, ammo cartridges, chunks of old tech each, one chosen for a purpose only he understood. Tali watched from the entrance, arms crossed. Her clothes were no longer torn and stained. Jace had given her gear, simple but strong, stitched together from spare pilot suits and reinforced plating. It didn't make her a soldier, but it made her feel protected. "What are you building?" she asked over the hiss of plasma. Jaka didn't look up, like something mean. She stepped forward slowly, eyes scanning the pieces of junk around him. There were fractured drone wings, an old shock core from a mining rig, scavenged panels with faded syndicate emblems, rusted, dented, forgotten. "You're going to fight them with this?" she said, doubt creeping in. He stopped welding and finally looked at her, his eyes glowing with challenge. "Not this." He jabbed his finger at the mess. "This is what they see, scrap garbage. Same thing they saw when they looked at you." Tali's face, Tensed, Jace, dropped the torch and stood fully, grabbing a sleek, twisted metal frame from behind the bench. It had curves like a bird's wing, reinforced joints, and a long, narrow base that glowed faint blue. "But they don't know what this can become," he said. She stared at it. "What is that?" He smiled, a little proud now. "A pulse disruptor cannon. Compact, mobile, and completely silent. Fires plasma at the exact frequency that shorts enemy shields." She raised an eyebrow. "I thought you said you had no weapons." "I said I had no warships," he corrected. "Didn't say I had no ideas." She walked around the cannon slowly. "It looked dangerous, brutal, and handmade. You built that. From broken scraps." He nodded. "That's what humans do best. We take what's broken and turn it into something that punches back." Her voice was soft. "Why are you doing this?" "For me." He wiped sweat from his forehead and leaned against the wall. "Because you reminded me what it means to fight for. Something real," he said. "Not for money, not for survival, but for someone who had no one else." Her voice trembled. "You don't even know me." "I don't have to," he said, stepping forward. "I saw what they did to you. I heard. Your story? That's enough." She looked down at the weapon. Her fingers brushed the smooth barrel. "What's it called?" she asked. Jace hesitated for only a moment, then said it like he already knew. "Tail Eye's Wrath." Her breath caught. She looked at him, really looked. His arms were scarred, His face weathered, but his eyes, they burned with conviction. Pity, not greed, just purpose. You named it after me? I built it for you, he said, to show them what happens when you push someone too far. When you try to break a soul that refuses to die. Before she could reply, the console above them beeped twice. They both froze. Tali ran to the terminal. Incoming signature. Large Jace followed. How many ships? She scanned the data. 5. All marked Garrus's clan. He swore under his breath. Looks like they brought a party. Her hand hovered over the scanner controls. They're spreading into attack formation. Expected that, Jace said, already moving. Good. She turned to him. Good. He opened a side panel and pulled out 2 more disruptor cores. Tossing one to her, I needed them close, he said. This cannon needs a field test. Her hands shook as she held the core. Never used a weapon before. Then today's your first lesson. He crouched beside the cannon and began linking the new core into the base. Wires sparked. Systems powered up. The weapon glowed a deep crimson now. Outside, the stars began to vanish, blocked by the enormous hulls of incoming ships. The clans. Fleet hovered like shadows over the moon's surface, lights blinking with hunger. Jace finished connecting the last piece. He stood, wiping his hands. They think they're hunting prey, he said. They have no idea what's waiting for them. Tali stepped forward, her hands balled into fists. Then let's show them, she said. Jace gave her one last look. You ready? No, she said honestly. But I'm angry, I'm tired, and I'm not running. He nodded. That's enough. They climbed into the gun base, maul cramped, but perfectly placed with a direct shot to the upper sky. Jace locked the cannon into position. He handed her the targeting visor. You aim, I'll keep the ship alive. She slipped it on. Her heart thundered. She locked onto the first ship, her finger hovering near the trigger. I'm not sure if I can do this, she whispered. Yes, you can, Jace said. Because they're not coming for just you anymore. They're coming for what you represent. And they're about to learn what happens when someone finds their worth. The cannon fired. The first ship's shields cracked like glass. The war had just begun. Asterisk, the recoil from the pulse cannon slammed through the hull like thunder. Tali gripped the edge of the console as the ship rattled around her, the lights flickering under the strain. The disruptor round had struck truth. The lead Garrus's vessel's shield core exploded in a flash of blue. The massive ship veered off course, trailing sparks like blood. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding so loud she could barely hear the alarms. I hit it, she whispered, disbelief dripping from her voice. You didn't just hit it, Jace shouted from across the cabin. You punched a hole through a warship with your name on the cannon. That was beautiful. It was already moving, racing across the control deck, flipping switches, rerouting energy from the cloaking unit to the secondary shields. His jaw was tight, movements sharp, practiced, and fast. Tali saw it now. He wasn't just a scavenger. He was a survivor built for chaos. But the celebration didn't last long. Second ship just locked onto us, Jace called. Not stupid. They're moving to flank. Another deep hum built up under the floor as a second cannon core charged. Jace grabbed the side panel and yanked it open, revealing a manual override lever. Time to make a decision, he said, looking at her. They'll breach the hull soon, maybe 10 minutes. Tali swallowed. And we don't have enough firepower to stop all of them. He nodded. Exactly. I can try to hold them off. But I won't lie to you, Tali. There's a good chance. This ship won't make it. She looked at him, then at the blinking red dots on the scanner. Each one, a death sentence, closing in like jaws. He walked over to her slowly, his voice low now. There's a hidden escape pod in the lower deck. It's small, but fast. If you get inside now, I can launch it toward a neutral system. You'll have a chance? Tali froze. You want me to run? No, he said honestly. I want you to choose. Her breath caught. You've been a prisoner your whole life. You've been used, beaten, thrown away. Every decision made for you. I won't be another one who tells you what to do. You want to run, run. You want to stay, stay. But this next move, it's yours. She stared at him. If I leave, you'll die. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Tali stepped back. Her fingers trembled as they grazed the wall. Her body remembered what it meant to hide, to disappear, to survive alone. But her heart was louder than the fear now. All her life she had been told she was worthless, that she was meant to serve, meant to be silent, was meant to obey. But this man had seen something else. Even when she couldn't, he saw someone who mattered, and now he was asking her if she believed it too. No one ever gave me a choice before, she said quietly. Jace nodded. I know. She looked down at her hands, calloused and cracked, but stronger now. Not soft anymore, not empty, and not alone. She met his eyes. Then I choose to stay. Jace exhaled like he'd been holding his breath the whole time. But he didn't smile, just nodded once, sharp and proud. Then we fight together. The ship jolted hard. The second vessel had fired. The impact didn't pierce the hull, but the alarm lit up like wildfire. They're boarding, Jace said. 2 grapples are coming through the upper corridor and rear hatch. He threw her a weapon and energy blade the size of her arm. She caught it. Her hands still trembled, but they didn't drop it. Stay behind cover, he said. I'll draw them into the hallway. You flank from the storage bay. Tali moved, fast, heart racing. Her boots echoed on the metal floor. As she slid into position, her breath fogged as the ship vents blew cold, and then she heard them. The sound of boots on steel, harsh alien commands, laughter, confidence. Garrus's warriors, they didn't expect resistance, especially not from her. One voice laughed, cruel and familiar. Bring the girl out alive. The buyer paid extra for her body unbroken. Taylor's blood turned to fire. She stepped out of cover, blade glowing, eyes locked on the lead soldier. You want a body? She said. Then take mine. In pieces, she swung. The blade sliced through the warrior's weapon, cutting sparks into the air. He staggered back, but not for long. The others surged forward. Jace came crashing through the opposite hallway with a shield drone and a pulse gun. He fired. The air lit up with plasma and light. The ship became a battlefield. Tali didn't think she moved. She ducked, swung, stabbed, and screamed. Her body remembered the pain, but now it used it. Now it gave it back. One soldier fell, then another. Jace threw her a glance, half shocked, half impressed. You sure you've never done this before? First time, she grunted, wiping blood off her lip. But I'm learning fast. Last warrior tried to run cowardly toward the grapple hatch, but Jace hit the override and blasted the door open. Space tore him away in seconds. Silence returned. Bodies lay across the floor. Tali leaned against the wall, breathing hard, eyes wide. They had survived. Together, Jekyll limped over, blood on his forehead. He looked her up and down, chest heaving. Still want to run? She shook her head slowly. No, I want to end them. Dask. The Garrus's flagship hovered like a predator in the dark massive, armored and brimming with warriors who had never known defeat. Its hull stretched like the back of a sleeping beast, pulsing with engines the size of towers. It had swallowed stars, crushed rebellions, enslaved hundreds, and now a single, scarred freighter approached it without fear. Jace sat in the pilot's seat, one hand on the control stick, the other resting on the console like a coiled spring. Every screen blinked red: low fuel, low power, minimal hull integrity, but his eyes were calm, focused, alive. Focused, alive. Tali stood beside him in her armor. Not the old stitched scraps she'd worn before. This was hers, now repaired plating, custom fit, reinforced with salvage tech and defiance. Her energy blade hung at her hip. Her chin was high. Her hands steady. They'll never let us land, she said. Eyes locked on the enemy flagship. They'll destroy the ship before we get close. That's why, Jace replied. We don't ask for permission. He slammed a sequence into the console. The freighter jolted forward, faster than the sensors could track. Alarms screamed collision warnings, targeting locks, breach countdowns, but the ship cut straight through the fleet's outer defense ring like a lightning bolt. The flagship responded. Cannons turned, cannons roared, but Jace had already ejected. The decoy drone, a rusted pod disguised as their escape vessel. As the enemy aimed for the drone, Jace slid the real ship under the main belly of the beast, right into its underdeck port. The Garrus's clan never expected a boarding, especially not from a human, and a girl they had thrown away. Jace pulled a lever. The airlock hissed open. Tally looked at him. "You still sure about this?" He smirked. "I've been sure since the day I saw you crawl through ice and still breathe." Together, they stepped into the enemy ship. The corridor was wide, polished steel floors, banners bearing the clan's crest and guards already running toward them. Blasters raised. Orders screamed. Tali didn't wait. She moved, first blade drawn, eyes burning. The first two warriors never saw her coming. Her strikes were clean, precise. Not a slave's defense, but a warrior's rage. Jace moved with her, covering blind spots, watching her back, giving her space to burn. They cut a path straight through the first defense line. Blood painted the walls. Smoke followed their trail and ahead. The throne chamber, Taylor's breath caught as they reached the final gate. It was larger than she remembered, tall, gold-trimmed, designed to make anyone approaching feel small. But she didn't feel small anymore. She stepped forward, the doors opened, and there he sat, the clan leader, massive, cloaked in crimson. His face bore old scars, sewn from battles long past, but his eyes were sharp, cold, cruel. "Tali," said, voice like gravel, "you were never meant to return." Jace stepped beside her, "And you were never meant to speak again." Clan leader laughed. "I paid for her, trained her, owned her, and now she brings me a human scavenger? What did he promise you, love? Freedom? Neither lasts long, girl." Tali stepped forward. "No," she said softly. "He gave me something none of you ever did." The clan leader sneered. "What's that?" Her voice rose. "A choice." She threw her blade across the room. It landed at the leader's feet. He blinked, then roared with laughter. "Do you think surrender earns mercy?" "No," she said. "I just want you to try and pick it up." He rose from the throne, towering over them. Slowly, he bent to grab the weapon, and the moment he touched it, the hidden pulse charge ignited. The blast tore through the room, knocking the leader off his feet. His guards screamed, blinded, bleeding. Jace raised his blaster, finishing them off in 2 clean shots. Tali stepped over the stunned leader. He coughed blood. His hand burned black. "You were nothing," he rasped. "Still are." She knelt beside him. "You taught me that worth was in beauty," she whispered. "But he showed me that worth is in what you fight for." She pressed her foot against his chest. "And I don't fight for you." She raised her second blade hidden at her waist and ended it. The room fell silent. Only the echo of the clan leader's final breath remained. Jace approached, his eyes scanning the chamber. "It's done." Tali stood slowly, breathing hard. "No," she said. "Now it begins." They returned to the freighter, engines sparking, hull torn. But it flew, and behind them, the Garrus's flagship burned, lit from within by rebellion. Word spread fast. A slave girl had killed her master. A woman had helped her, and together they had broken a clan. Tali stood at the observation window days. Later, watching stars blur past, Jace came up behind her. "I'll talk about this." "Let them," she said. He nodded. "What now?" She turned to him, her eyes calm, fierce. "Now we find the others," she said. "The ones still chained. The ones still praying." "And then?" he asked. Her voice didn't shake. "Then we teach them to stop praying and start fighting. End of story."